Who is the most tragic Sonic character? Some people might say Shadow or Tails, but I'd say Surge the tenrec. Now you could say, but did you hear Shadow literally watch his friend get shot? But nah, I think Surge. She literally got her whole life wiped out from her memory because of Starline, and she may never know what her old life was. Yeah, that's an even more tragic than Shadow's backstory. That's a hot take, but hey, this is my video. Not yours, mine. And I'm gonna state my opinions. If you got a problem with that, go argue with the wall. Okay, that was off topic, so let's get into the actual video. If you don't know, Surge appears in the Sonic IDW comics, created by Ian Flynn. On the surface, she just looks like a Sonic knockoff with a bad attitude, but under the surface, she's basically a walking identity crisis wrapped in light ink. Before we get into the actual video, character analysis, let's give a bit of a background on this green tenrec. Surge isn't just an evil Sonic. That's the surface reading. What makes her compelling is that her entire existence is a serious identity problem. She was reshaped and mentally rewritten by Dr. Starline to become a weapon against Sonic. But not just physically enhanced, mentally changed. Memories altered, personality pushed in certain directions, emotional triggers installed. Her hatred wasn't something that developed naturally through lived experience. It was carefully built like a lab project. That alone shakes her sense of self. Most characters in Sonic know who they are. Sonic's freedom, Knuckles' duty, Shadow's purpose. Even villains like Eggman are clear on what they want. Surge doesn't have that clarity. Her origin story is artificial. That means her emotional foundation is unstable. Imagine discovering that your strongest feelings, your anger, your rivalry, your sense of mission might have been planted inside you. That would make you question everything. And Surge, she lives inside that uncertainty. What makes it worse is that she's desperately looking for control. She reacts strongly to any hint of authority because control was stolen from her once before. When someone like Starling manipulates you, you don't just dislike control. You develop a strong reaction to it. So Surge overcorrects. She refuses alignment. She rejects cooperation unless it's on her terms. She chooses chaos because chaos can't be easily controlled. Okay, I just caught the reference that I just wrote on the script. My bad, you guys. But here's the tragic irony. Rebellion is still a reaction to her programming. She defines herself in opposition against Starline, against Sonic, against heroes, against expectations. That means she still isn't self-defined. She's reacting instead of choosing freely. And that's a subtle but important psychological trap. True independence would mean making choices that aren't rooted in proving someone wrong. She hasn't reached that point yet. Then there's her anger. Surge is constantly furious, but anger is rarely the root emotion, it's a shield. Anger is protective, but it creates distance. It prevents vulnerability. It gives the illusion of strength. Underneath anger is usually something softer. Fear, shame, insecurity, grief. Surge's deepest insecurity is that she might not be original. See, she was created to rival Sonic. Her speed is measured against him. Her worth is compared to him. Her purpose was defined as beat Sonic. That's deeply damaging. If your existence revolves around outperforming someone else, you're not living. You're constantly comparing. That creates a quiet panic. If she fails to surpass him, she's inferior. If she succeeds, then what? What is she without that rivalry? If she defeats Sonic, does she still have a purpose? Her entire emotional drive is built on opposition. Remove the opposition and the engine stalls. That fear of being a copy eats at her. It explains why she reacts so strongly when Sonic doesn't take her hatred personally. Sonic doesn't treat her like an abomination. He doesn't confirm her self-image as a monster. In fact, he often treats her like someone capable of better choices. So, pretty much how Sonic treats all of his rivals. That shakes her more than open hostility would. Because if Sonic saw her as evil, she could lean into it. That would be simple. But Sonic's refusal to define her that way forces her to confront a frightening possibility. Maybe she isn't locked into the role she was given. That possibility requires self-reflection. And self-reflection means facing trauma. Trauma shaped Surge in ways that go beyond anger. It likely disrupted how she connects to others. People who experience manipulation and identity tampering often struggle with trust. They become very alert to danger. They expect betrayal. They test loyalty. They may switch between pushing people away and holding them too tightly. Her relationship with Kit the Fennec reflects that complexity. Kit is emotionally dependent, fragile in his own way, and deeply bonded to her through their shared trauma. They aren't just partners, they were changed together. That kind of shared origin can produce intense loyalty, but it can also produce unhealthy dependence. Surge acts dominant, but she relies on him more than she'd ever admit. Surge grounds her, Kit grounds her, he reinforces her sense of being real. When everything else feels uncertain, he's proof that her experience wasn't imagined. But that dynamic is unstable. Trauma bonds are powerful, but they're not always healthy. If Surge's identity is fragile, she might subconsciously need Kit to reflect back an image of strength and certainty. If he falters, that threatens her sense of self. And if she grows beyond the programming that shaped them, she risks growing away from him. That's another internal conflict building under the surface. Symbolically, her lightning powers amplify everything about her psychology. Lightning is raw, unpredictable, violent, brilliant. It can illuminate or destroy. It's not steady like wind. It doesn't flow gently. It strikes, it surges, it burns hot and fast. That instability mirrors her emotional state. She doesn't process slowly. She reacts intensely. She escalates quickly. But lightning is also energy, potential, power that can fuel entire systems. Surge's story isn't just about whether she'll stay a villain, it's about whether she'll stabilize, whether she'll learn to channel that power instead of being consumed by it. At her core, Surge represents a question that's more mature than most rival characters in the franchise. If your personality was shaped by manipulation, can you take back control of your life? That's heavier than simple rivalry. It's about identity. She doesn't just need redemption. Redemption implies moral wrongdoing that must be corrected. Surge's deeper struggle is figuring out who she is. She needs to decide who she is dependent of Sonic, independent of Sonic, independent of Starline, independent of being the anti-Sonic, I guess. When she eventually reaches a point where she acts not out of rage, not out of defiance, not out of comparison, but from genuine self-understanding, that's when she'll become truly dangerous or truly heroic. Because a self-aware Surge would no longer be reactive, she would be intentional. That version of her would be unstoppable in a completely different way. Hey, thank you for sticking around for this video. I'm thinking on doing a Knuckles and Amy one that's structured like this, so yeah, be prepared for that. That's all for me. Have a good day, and I'll see you again soon. Peace out, Sonic fans.